So another smart financial habit is not to have debt. Not to have debt. And if you do, you have to eliminate it. You can't be passive when you deal with this monster. It is killing this nation. This country is in the domestic market. More than 70% of people are in debt that's out of control. I don't know if you understand what's happening. It is devastating. It is destroying our society. It is destroying our families. And so we got to take over this thing. And I don't think eliminating debt is negotiable. I think it's essential. Owe no man a thing except to love them. I think practicing smart financial habits is essential for our overall well-being, for our health. You know, it's very interesting. Quentin came up and prayed for me. And he asked me, when you prayed for me, you prayed that you'd take away this, God would help me with the stress. A week ago, I was speaking to Cade, and I said, listen, I've got a real messed up neck, man, and I'm feeling like a dying dog. And he said, let me have a look. And he says, do you have stress? And I thought, yeah, of course I do. We got financial stress in the church. That's stressful, you know. And so without me knowing, I'm praying and I'm finding more verses and I'm trusting God. I'm doing all that sort of stuff, but my body is telling the truth. And I'm sure that's true with everybody. It affects our overall health. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and don't lean on your own understanding. We're called to engage with God with our all. And our all is engaging in the world we live in. And our all, for most, is unwell. Oscar Jameer Solomon, a research scientist at the New York State Psychiatric Institute, says this. The research shows that indebtedness creates two experiences that can be fairly lethal. One is the sense of uninterrupted hopelessness. One is a sense of uninterrupted hopelessness, feeling like there is no way out and feeling trapped. The other is shame, which is very isolating. People walk around with their secrets and feel not worthy of support. Societies like ours tend to see economic success as a reflection of a person's qualities and economic difficulties as a sign of personal failure. This is a research institute. Man, they have done this stuff well. He continues, he goes on, he says this. What we see is that when people have a plan to get out of debt, hope can begin to increase. One of the key components of hopeful thinking is to feel that you have a concrete pathway to achieve the things that matter to you and your life goals. Having a sense that there is a way out of your situation can have an important financial and mental wellness effect on your life. You know, when Jesus says, come follow me, and he says, follow me, this is a narrow road, he is leading us out into a very concrete direction away from the stuff. And his word is a light to our paths and a lamp to our feet. And so he has an answer for us in our very practical lives in this area of finance. And people are worrying while people are dying early, while people are stressed, while people are jumping off buildings, etc., is because they have no hope. Uninterrupted hopelessness and shame. And we sing these words and we know what's going on in our lives. But these words are true, and they're for us. And our reality is our reality. But we can find a way out, and it's God's way out. I'm convinced that part of having concrete pathways to achieve the things that matter to us, I'm convinced one of those pathways is having a budget. I'm convinced one of those habits is eliminating debt. Solomon said this, careful planning puts you ahead in the long run. Hurry and scurry puts you further behind. That's from Proverbs 21. And like I said last week, financial mismanagement doesn't just happen. Financial mismanagement is a series of bad financial decisions, which quickly result in bad financial habits, like not having a budget, like not saving because you're in so much debt. So if we want a better life, if we want to have a better financial life, but if we want to be better, healthier, have great health, then we need to have smart financial habits. It's not negotiable. We need to. James Baldwin, a writer he was an activist in the 50s, with just after Martin Luther King. He's an author. He said this incredible thing. He said, "Not everything that we face can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced." Shall I read it again? Not everything that we face can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. And I know debt is one of those things no one wants to face. So I'll tell you a story about Leon and I. We had debt when we were a couple of 10 years ago. It wasn't like a hectic debt, but for us, debt is a destroyer. And it affected us. We bought some timeshare when our kids were small on a very good deal. It was like ridiculous. They were getting divorced and they hated each other, and so they were just getting rid of everything. You can have my house for R5. They're like revengeful. So we bought their timeshare. And it was a good deal for us as a family. We had beautiful holiday times, and we're fixing that part of our lives so well. It's what we believed in. It's what we spoke about. It's what we trained people to do. And now we were able to experience the joy of that. But when the kids grew up and we stopped going, we didn't realize that if you got timeshare, you still got to pay your sort of levy. And what we bought was very cheap, but we bought in a premier spot called Champagne Sports Resort. So when we went there, were like a couple of huts, lots of children, and a hotel. By the time we were trying to get out, it was like the flashiest thing in the burg. And we just saw these levies, and we couldn't really afford to pay the levies, so we sort of hoped that Jesus would take them away. And he's not interested in doing that, I discovered. So it was chewing us up. And so, full disclosure, we paid 7,000 rand for this, which is remarkable, So like nearly 15 years later, we owed 17,000 rand. So we said, okay, we got to sell it. And we were very happy. If we could sell this for what we got it for, we'd be so stoked. And God had been speaking to us about our financial life. And he had been stirring us. And this was one of the parts. And we knew that it was a little new, 17,000 rand. For some people, that's, I wish I only had 17,000 rand. But back then, when we were struggling, 17,000 rand was a very tight noose. So we said, Lord, we're going to honor you. We're going to sell this stuff. So we phoned the resort, and we said, listen, we want to sell our, and I'm hoping, cross your fingers, hold your thumbs, you do anything, trusting Jesus, doing the whole lot, And would you know anyone who would sell it? I said, okay, what do you want? No, I didn't say. We didn't say, what do you want? We knew what we needed to get. We were saying, oh God, 17,000, please, 17,000, Jesus. If you're alive, just drop that money out of the clouds. I'm sure we've all done that sort of stuff, eh? Nothing comes, man. And we got a phone call an hour later. Okay, if you're interested, we have a buyer for you. We're going, oh, Jesus, 17,000 is what we need. And we'll sell it for 34,000 rand. And we were the happiest people on the planet. I don't care if you had triplets or whatever. We got rid of our debt, and God blessed us. And God is a God who honors us when we stick to what He tells us to do. And we've had no debt as a family since then. And I just want to say thank you, Jesus, that you didn't drop the money out of the sky, but you put it in my bank. You got to be aware of the debt trap. Beware. It is an evil scheme. The debt trap. It's, I'll tell you, the best way to describe the debt trap is, buy now, you can pay later. That's why I say cut those cards up. Retailers build their businesses around that motto. You can buy now and pay later. And you go, oh, that's awesome. How many months do I have to pay it off? They go, how many months do you want to take? Because they're just going to charge you interest. Because they got you in the trap. You can't get out of that. It's like a bear trap. In other words, you can have what you want, even if you can't afford it. You can just go to the retailers. Anyone, name a retailer that just only accepts cash. Okay, Habib's, the guy sells vegetables at the bottom. But no one else. Before you know it, they're like those guys in the West that pull out their guns. That credit card thing comes out fast, boy. And before you know it, you're buying what you want. Not what you need, what you want, what you can't afford. You know why it's so successful, this philosophy of retail, is that it relies on basic human need to have, to want more. The Bible describes it as greed. And it's in us. It doesn't matter how holy you are and how much you sprinkle holy water over yourself and pray and read the Bible. Inside of us is greed. And the devil knows, boy, how to feed the greed. So if you have a need, you need to watch the little monster called greed, because your need will feed the greed. And that's a poem from me. I think this trap, debt, is the evil hook that gets into us. We have to root out the weed of debt. You can't ignore debt. You can't just go, it's going to go away. No, it's not. It's growing. It's growing. You can't say, like, some weeds have got beautiful flowers on them. They're beautiful, purple and yellow and red and orange, and it's like, but they're so pretty. That's how we treat debt. It's like, it's beautiful, it's okay. You can't just cut over your weeds thinking that because you can't see them, they're not there. They're there. What you got to do is you got to get a big knife or something, and you got to dig into the soil, and you got to push, and you got to pull the whole root out of the weed. And you've cut off 5 little leaves and a pretty flower, and then you got to find, my goodness me, the root system of the weed. And then you look around your garden, you go, I've got more weeds than grass. Hey, look, I'm talking, this is my own illustration. That's the truth in our house. Those weeds won. So you know what we had to do? I had a bash at poisoning all the weeds, killed all the grass. Our garden became like a desert. So we picked all that stuff up. We dug it all out, a deep amount. Then we put new soil in, and then we put new grass on. That's how severe it is when you have to deal with debt. You've got to root it out. You can't just cut over it. Because if you leave it while you're cutting it, those roots are moving along and finding more spaces, because this first sign of a little drop or sniff of rain, those little weeds go, bing, here we are. Eliminate debt. Non-negotiable. And our debt story is basically we want what we want. So we'll do whatever we can to get what we want at any price. And for us, what was good when we bought the timeshare for our family was good then. But we had to think, and made us realize what's good then is not always good now. Can't just leave things. Financial mismanagement is deeply connected to our untamed egos, to the mismanagement of our souls. So if you're in a bad place, mental health and anxiety and stress, it affects the way you do your money. The second thing I want to say about debt is that we are too discontent as human beings. Listen to what the scriptures say. Philippians chapter 4, verse 11 to 13. It says, not that I speak from want. This is Paul writing to the Philippian church, and he's been vulnerable. He shared, I know how to live with, I know how to live without. I need money now, guys, to carry on doing what I need to do here with you guys. And people graciously blessed him. And he speaks to them, and he speaks to a number of churches, but he says this, not that I speak from want, for I've learned to be content in whatever circumstance I am. I know how to get along with humble means, and I also know how to live in prosperity. That's a very unique ability, and it's only possible because of Christ. To be able to live contently without, and to be able to live contently with much. It's quite a remarkable thing that God can do in us. In any and every circumstance, I've learned the secret of being filled and going hungry, both having abundance and suffering need, because I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. He writes to this young pastor called Timothy in 1 Timothy 6 to verse 8, and I'm reading from the Message version. A devout life does bring wealth. A devout life does bring wealth, but it's the rich simplicity of being yourself before God. Isn't that beautiful? Godliness is true godliness when accompanied by contentment. Sorry? I can't repeat that because I've just forgotten what it is. You got to go with me here, Mumbury. And then he continues, he says, since we entered the world penniless, we will leave the world penniless. If we have bread, this is it, talking about Did you win? And you get all nervous, hey? You start phoning people on FaceTime, whatever it is. I feel a pain, man. I don't like the song, but I feel your pain. Talking about we're too discontent is to discover the secret of contentment, is to know how to live in Christ. How do you seat yourself in His lap and trust Him that He has got you? That doesn't happen overnight. It happens as we do things and we make mistakes, and sometimes we buy things we shouldn't buy. We learn by this. But listen to what Eugene Peterson says. If we have bread on the table and shoes on our feet, that's enough. I think debt is directly connected to our mismanaged soul, our discontent. And how that happens, how debt creeps into our life happens, is because we are too discontent with our lives. We feel our life is not enough. We're constantly comparing our lives to other people's lives. It just sucks the joy out of your being, doesn't it? And the truth is, we still think more is better. How do I know? How much stuff do you just walk past you haven't used this year? For the last 2 years? For the last 3 years? Some stuff we've got in boxes, lots of boxes, we haven't even opened. We don't even know what's in there. At some point, we need to own our reality, and without God's life-changing power at work within us and His grace, the truth is we're doomed. So our reality is, if we've got debt, we must own it. Our Christ reality, we've got Christ and He can enable us. So if we're too discontent, then what must we do? I think we should learn what it means to live simplistically. Paul writes to the Thessalonian church in chapter 4, verse 11 to 12, and he says this: make it your ambition to lead a quiet life and attend your own business and work with your hands, just as we command you, so that you will behave properly towards outsiders and not be in any need. Make it your ambition to live a quiet life. Living a life of simplicity is a most complicated thing, isn't it? You mean I'm going to dress like Jesus and eat food like John the Baptist and grow a beard? I'm a woman. It's not easy to pursue the life that Christ calls us to live, but it's possible through His strength. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. When do we believe what God says is a reality for our living? At what point do we go, I'm going to believe everything He says? And then we have a go. And not only is it complicated for us, pursuing a life of simplicity, we live in a complicated world. But that is not a good enough excuse. And it's not a good enough excuse to ignore the need for us to live a quiet life, a life of simplicity. The pursuit of simplicity takes time. Jesus said, foxes has holes. They can go and sleep where they want to sleep. Birds have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to place his head. He didn't get tied up in what everyone else was tied up. He lived a very simple life. Proverbs 37 verse 8 says this, 2 things I ask of you, God. 2 things. Solomon writes these words, do not refuse me before I die. Keep deception and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches. I don't know how brave you have to be to pray a prayer like that. Feed me with the food that is my portion. Simplicity is exactly what it means. Why am I talking about simplicity? Because debt is the opposite to simplicity. That's what happens. That's what happened. Because we weren't living a simple life. Simplicity is exactly what it means. And for most of us, that would mean making serious changes in our lives. And I'm unashamed to say that's what we should be doing. 1, we have to slow down the unhurried life, because it's the hurried life, the quick scurrying and hurried life that ends up in a disaster. That's what the proverb said. We have to keep things simple in our lives. We have to stop complicating our lives. Because when we're complicating things, you know what we do? We make stupid mistakes. Very often they're financial. Very often. Like buying a car you can't really afford, but it's a tax benefit. Yeah, but it's a car you can't afford. Yeah, but it's a tax. I know, but it's a car you can't afford. Do you understand what I'm saying? And many things like that. And truth is this, with simplicity, less is more. Less is more. Uncluttering your minds is such an essential. How busy are your minds right now? Right now, your either brain is seized and you're stuck and I can't listen to anymore because your debt is overwhelming, or your mind is just now busy with all this sort of stuff. Wow, what does that mean? I'm too hurried. I need to slow down. What does that mean? I have to start cooking food now. I have to keep things simple. Why is my life so complicated? Why have I got so many children doing so many things at once in 1 hour? You can spring clean your cupboards and you can spring clean your garage. That's uncluttering. And you should. You got stuff that you could sell, man. But you have to unclutter your minds. It's essential. So, I'm going to land with this. Render all what is due to them. To those who require tax, pay them tax. Jesus said that as well. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God's. And by the way, when Jesus said that, giving God what is God's means giving him everything. Give custom to whom custom, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. Owe nothing to anyone except to love one another, for he who loves his neighbor has fulfilled the law. Psalm says this, the wicked borrows and does not pay back, but the righteous is gracious and gives. And then in Proverbs 22, verses 6 to 7, you've all heard this. Train up a child in the way it should go. And even when the child is old, they will not depart from that. Have you heard that before? Hey? Have you read what's next? The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower becomes the lender's slave. And I think those two are connected. I sent out that thing this week, what bad financial habits kids learn from their parents. Train up your child. You want to train up your child well. Live your financial life well. And don't become a slave to anyone. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, even as I've loved you. That you also love one another. By this, all men will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. Owe no man anything except to love them. How do people identify us as Christians? By our love for one another. It's a new commandment. And you know, love is all about relationship. Am I correct? That's what love is, hey? You can't have love and just go and hug a pole. You know? As a Jesus follower, love ought to be front and center of our lives and living, of our daily decisions, of our choices we make. So obeying the commandment to love defines us as a Jesus follower. It's who we are. God is love and we're his kids. So we are children of love. So in what we do with this love life, as Jesus followers, we're commanded to love, not just to talk about love, to love. Correct. Owe no man anything, have no debt, except the debt of loving someone. Could this scripture be saying, having debt and allowing the devastating effect of debt to damage our lives and our relationships is opposite to what God has commanded us to do, which is to love one another? So I'm going to push it into a hard place. Debt is unlove. Debt is not loving your family. Debt is not loving yourself. Debt is not loving one another. Debt is the thing that is disqualifying us to be known for who we are. My disciples love one another. I'll push it further. My disciples refuse to get into debt. If you got debt, it's very hard in your marriage. Am I right? It's hard to love the person. If your parents got you in debt and you messed up your life and your dreams and all that, it's hard to love your parent, eh? It's a reality. So that's why we have to eliminate debt, because the word says we should. So, 1, sort out your budget. What's your income? What are your expenses? You have to know what your debt is. This is not like, oh, I think I've got a bit of debt. And then when you speak more, oh, yeah, I also got that, yeah. Do you have I forgot about my credit card. Oh, yeah. You got to walk in the light as he's in the light, so you can have fellowship with one another. You can't walk in darkness and say, I love Jesus, and you got debt. Because it's destroying your soul and it's destroying your relationships around you. And you know what's happened? Mammon, that evil spirit behind money, has grabbed you by the throat and is telling you this: I've got more power over you than God has, because you're my slave. And then you remember, Christ came to die to set me free, that I'll no longer be a slave to my sin. So you have to know what you did. You can't hide anything. So I've got this thing here. And on one of the things, one of the expenses is repaying debt, outstanding debt. Actually, you need another form and you need to list it all to be practical. Come on, be brave. Walk in the light. This is my debt. This is my credit card. This is my Woolies. This is my Edgar's. All the others. I don't even want to know. List all the stuff. You list it. If you're still paying for it, it's called debt. You can't keep silent. Confess your debt and your wrongdoing. And I'll bring those together in the same place. You can't say, I'm coming clean, I've got debt. That's not coming clean. That's part of coming clean. I'm coming clean and I confess I have done wrong. I've got us into debt. That's a better confession. We need to do that. Otherwise, we're still being held by the throat. The devil wants us in his trap, and he wants us to be a silent slave. That's what he wants us to do. Just be silent. He wants to keep you disempowered and filled with shame. It's his best thing. If I can keep them in shame, they'll just get to more and more into debt. That's what happens. Fourth thing about eliminating debt. You have to speak to your debtors. That's the hard part. No, that's the second hard part. The first hard part is owning your debt. Second hard part is speaking to your debtors. Just remember, it's just money. So you have to go and speak to them. You can't be silent. You go, listen, I need to speak to you, and I need to start sorting this out properly. And cut your expenses, whatever your expense. Start cutting expenses. Don't wait. Just start cutting. And stop spending. Just stop spending. If you're in debt, just go like this. We're not spending a cent. We're not going to buy anything. No food. No petrol. We're going to walk around looking like Jesus, and we're going to go and look for grasshoppers tonight. You've got to stop spending until you know what your debt is. Because we're foolish. We think it's just going to go. It doesn't. It's just going to grow. And then you need to start paying off your debt. You have to start somewhere. Make a plan and stick to the plan. If it's too overwhelming for you, you don't know what to do, then find someone you can speak to who has financial savvy and help them with you figure a way out of this and put down a concrete plan, a pathway that will lead you to health, both financially and emotionally and physically. Okay, last point I'm going to talk about. Last sentence. Tell your kids, come clean with them. We have messed up. We're in debt. And tell them this. So we're not going to buy anything until our debt is paid. And it's not your fault. But it's going to be your fault if you ask me for a new bicycle. Because you've seen me use the credit card so liberally. Just, you have to. Because now, God is in control. And you're loosening the grip of that demonic thing called debt. I think that's as practical as I can be with regards to what I think scriptures say with regards to debt. And I want to encourage you to have a go. It's not the easiest subject to talk about as a family, even in your businesses, whatever you do. It's a very important thing, and it's painful. But like James Baldwin said, and I love that quote. Let me find it. Not everything that we face can be changed. I'm going to add, but in Christ I can do all things. But nothing can be changed until it's faced.